Hey, everyone. Welcome to week 3. So glad you guys could be on. Amy and I, hopefully should pop on soon, are going to be recapping our webinar that we listened to from Brooke Hemingway in the Momentum Movement group. And it was fabulous information. And some of you may be in there, and so you're hearing this for a second time, kind of, processing all the things that she shared. But I do want to share something before Amy pops on, just really quick while we're waiting. I really was inspired by the definition of the word grit. Now, I love looking up what words mean because there's such richness in the definition behind what a word means, right? And so when people say, in this business takes grit, I looked up what it means. And so I wanted to read you guys these definitions. I wish I'm such a visual person. If I was more prepared, I would have a graphic for you and share my screen. But I was listening to Brooke Hemingway just talk about some things this morning on a live video in her Aligned Business Coaching group, and I thought it was excellent. She was basically talking about how life is hard, business is hard, but it doesn't all have to be hard. And the fact that there's a lot of people going through a lot of hard things in life, like legit hard, like maybe a child is sick, someone's going through a divorce, maybe who knows what, financial crisis because of what's going on right now, maybe cancer, or you find out your mom has cancer or something like that, where it's just like heavy stuff, right? And so she was just doing like a counseling session, which I thought was so encouraging, because if you're not going through something hard right now, and we're not going to like say my hard is harder than your hard, or your hard's harder than my hard, right? All of us are going to go, like, it's just a fact of life. There's going to be trials. There's going to be some struggles in life, but it's how do we handle those things that is the key. And she was talking about having grit, and she was saying we need to be grittier, right? In life, in our business, in our mindset, in our marriages, with our kids, right? And I'm going to give you a couple of things that she talked about. But she said, we just need to be a little more grittier. And she said, and be a little bit more unstoppable. And she said, the reason why I'm at where I'm at is because I'm gritty. And I would say, I have that little inside of me too. And I hope you guys all have it. And I think all of us have it in us to varying degrees and levels. But it's not like a strong resolve. But I just wanted to read the definition because I thought it was so good. To have grit means that you have courage and show the strength of your character. A person with true grit has passion and perseverance. And I want you to be thinking of this in terms of yourself and be speaking this over yourself, okay? Even if you don't feel like this is you, or maybe in certain seasons of your life, you don't feel this way, but I want you to acknowledge that it can be true of you. A person with true grit has passion and perseverance. Goals are set and followed through. A person who works really hard to follow through on commitments has true grit. It's not a word you hear very often. And here's the 5 characteristics of grit. How many do you have? So I looked these up online, and I just screenshotted them because I thought they were so good. You can write these down. They're so good. And share with your kids. I'm going to share these with my kids too, because I want them to be people of grit. Courage, number 1. Number 2, I don't think it's in any particular order. Conscientiousness, achievement oriented versus dependable. Oh, Amy, it's Jesse Booker. Hang on, let me mute. I feel like there's some feedback. Okay, there we go. Number 3, long-term goals and endurance is follow through. Number 4 is resilience, optimism, confidence, and creativity. And then number 5 is excellence versus perfection. Isn't that good? Man, that's good. So she was just sharing this morning about grit. And so some examples of grit, and I found these online. You guys can take notes on it because I thought it was so good. They always have their teammates back. Mentally tough leaders are more consistent than their peers. They have a clear goal that they work towards each day. They don't let short-term profits, negative feedback, or hectic schedules prevent them from continuing the march toward their vision. And then grit refers to a student's ability to persist after setbacks. If you've never experienced a setback in this business, then get ready because you will have some. Amy and I, and probably anyone that's on this call that has worked plexus for any length of time will say that's true. Like, it's easy to look at someone that you deem successful and be like, oh, well, they've never struggled, or they never had any fears, or it was just easy for them. Well, maybe it looks like that from the outside, but I guarantee you that's not the inside story of that, of the success. Grit is related to mindset, in that if one believes that failures are due to their fixed trait, there is no reason to try again. Conversely, individuals with growth mindset are more likely to be resilient and have more grit. And we've talked about this before, about being victims versus being overcomers. And when we have a victim mindset, it's always someone else's fault. We pass the blame, pass the buck, we create excuses. And so anyways, I'm actually might just go ahead and post this to the team page, because that's such great definitions. But one thing I will just share before Amy and I get into the content of the webinar, is Brooke was basically defining the difference between positive thinking and neutral thinking, and when it comes to when it's in relation to hard things in life, or the things or struggles. Okay, so I liked the fact that she said, when you're going through something that's really, really hard, like life and death stuff in your life, in your personal life, or whatever that looks like for you, she's like, you don't have to be like Pollyanna and be like, la 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 la, pretend like something isn't really hard. There is a lot of hard things. And what I've appreciated about what she defined here was that neutral thinking is different than positive thinking. Neutral thinking is recognizing the facts. Yes, this is hard. Yes, I'm going through something like completely life-changing, or something I've never navigated before. She said, you acknowledge the facts, you look for solutions, and you're objective. You're not emotionally driven. And also, I don't think that just because just because there's hard things doesn't mean that it has to derail us from working our business. But at the same time, also, I don't think we have to pretend like life is okay. Like, it cannot be okay, but you can still move forward. You can still have forward movement in your business. And I really appreciated the fact that she said, don't speak life to negativity, because she said, when you speak it out, she said it's one thing to think it or to feel it, but once you speak it, that sets in motion. And there is something to speaking things out. And she said there's a 40 to 70% chance that what you say and speak out will become true for negative things, right? And so she said to really guard what we're speaking out. She's like, if you're constantly saying, oh, no one on my team wants to share, oh, people are turning off their subscriptions, like all of those things. She's like, the more you verbalize that and you talk to people about it and you create all this, she's like, you're going to speak life to those things. So anyways, I'm just encouraging you guys with this because I was encouraged with it. And she said the worst thing, she goes, this is just my 2 cents, and this is my personal opinion, but she said the worst thing that you can do when you're going through a really hard season in your personal life is to not work, is to quit working. And I thought this was just a really, really great way to put things in perspective. And she said, all of us have our buffer, okay? For some people, or like maybe your escape mechanism, maybe that's Netflix, maybe that's binging on ice cream, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's exercise, whatever those things are. But she said, consider having your plexus business be your buffer. What if it was your positive little hidey hole that you spend your 1, 2, 3 hours a day, your little cocoon of, this is my time of me working on my dreams, me working on my legacy. And what happens when we continue to do the things, even if our feelings don't align with it, is that we start to create positive outcomes, right? Because activity leads to fruit, right? It results in joy, because we're helping other people. And I just appreciated her perspective in light of that. And she said, there are rewards for continued faithfulness and diligence. And it just goes back to the law of sowing and reaping, the law of faithfulness and diligence, the law of grittiness, right? So anyways, I just wanted to share that really quick, because regardless of where we're at, what we're dealing with, what our struggle is, I think it's fine to acknowledge the struggle, to acknowledge like, this is true about my life right now, the reality, but am I going to use that as a crutch or an excuse? And she said also it's important to journal these things, like write them down, get them out on paper. And then she said, but also write down what your truth is. Actually, if my truth is that I believe in this opportunity, I know what I have in light of products and in light of this business, and it is worth my time to share, to share myself in this way with the people I'm going to bless, just kind of getting that on paper. So whatever that's worth, I'm just sharing that. Okay, Amy, fabulous. I'm excited about our little kind of chatter back and forth about the webinar.
Yeah. Can I share something really quick too, just in regards to what you were just saying? I don't know how many of you are reading the Get Out of Your Head book by Jenny Allen. The last 2 chapters that she talks about, the whole book is like changing like changing the spiral of the toxic thoughts in your head. And in chapter 15, it's the second to the last chapter, she gives like the scientific research behind literally how long it can take for you to literally change and rewire the pathways in your brain. It literally takes from start to finish 10 minutes. So, I mean, it can go one way or the other, right? But like, perfect example, the other day I was talking to someone on our team, she's a sideline of mine, and really kind of like in the depths, right? Like, I'm a failure on all levels. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to breathe truth. I'm going to speak truth to you and lift your arms now, because you're going to do that for me when I need it. And we're all going to need it because we all take turns. But I was like, I'm going to speak truth over you, and I'm going to pray over you. And then we're going to get online and we're going to do 30 minutes of IPA, because we know that activity cures all the things. But all it takes is 10 minutes for you to get out of this funk and to believe the truth. Right. And so you can live in that spiral thought of like, I'm a failure. My business is crap this month. It's a horrible month. No one's doing all the things that Megan said, because it's true. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he, right? It's biblical. And then when you speak it, it brings even more life to that. But also, if you can think, whatever, if you are feeling negative or you are in the depths, and you will have days like that, to know, like seeing it on written paper, like the science behind it, that all it takes is 10 minutes to literally rewire a new pathway in your brain. So you can literally, you're 10 minutes away from freedom from that toxic thought, but sometimes you need a friend to do that for you. And sometimes you need a friend to lift your arms for you. Mm-hmm. And so my challenge to her was, you are a leader, and you need to tell your people when you struggle and be vulnerable with them, because that's going to encourage them too. Like it's a delicate dance, but being honest and vulnerability, I think, there's a gift there in that too, to have your team know like, oh, she struggles too. Praise the Lord. We're all in this together. Do you know what I mean? But I just thought that was interesting. Literally, it's 10 minutes. Do you know what I mean? As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So I just wanted to share that, because I felt like that went well with what you were sharing, Megan.
Can you explain what she meant, or what she said, what do you do in those 10 minutes to rewire? Was there a series of questions?
My book is right over there, but really it was more like speaking the truth. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times what we say isn't true anyway. And the things that she was saying, like, she knew they weren't true, but sometimes you need someone else to speak them. Do you know what I mean? And then even just in who you are in Christ and your identity in Christ, if you are a believer, and if you are a believer, this business is the Lord's anyway, and he's in control of the outcome. And we're required to be faithful. We're required to love our people well, and we're required to do our best, but the outcome, we can't control the outcome. You know what I mean? And as far as like the whole comparison game, I was like, you are aware, right? That what you're feeling right now, like we all feel that way about you. Like nobody can compare to you. You know that, right? She's like, yeah, I know. And so, but just speaking that and bringing it to the light, like, you are a wonderful wife, you are a wonderful mother, you excel at, like, just breathing life back into stuff that you already know. But if you've got some, and that's what she's saying. And she gave an example of when she was writing this book, she was just in the depths and a friend called her, and so she just shared with her friend, like, I think that this book's a wash. And her friend was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, we literally had a 10-minute conversation, but that changed the course of her day, where she's like, I would have lived there all day, I know I would have, but that one conversation where she was willing to be vulnerable with her friend changed the entire course of her day and brought life back into, like, truth, right? Truth. When you bring something to the light, it loses its power, no matter what that is, sin or whatever. And so you bring it to the light, you let someone else lift your arms and speak that truth. And 10 minutes is the time period it takes for your brain to be like, oh yeah, right. You know what I mean? And that's basically what she was doing.
So I think this is a really important, basically, what do we call it? A process to recognize. So when we realize that we're going down into the spiral, that we need to stop. We need to recognize it, because with with recognition, there's awareness, and there's a level of, you know what, I'm going down the spiral, stop. And you can redirect those thoughts. You can speak the truth over the lies. That's the other thing, is like having the mastery of our mind when we realize, hey, that's a fear. Wait, why am I fearing? What is the root behind this? So if you take a minute, and even if you don't have a friend, you can't call a friend right at that second, write it down. If you can, write the thing down. And then that's the cool thing, is like, and that's exactly basically what Brooke was saying, is that what is my truth? What are the true things about, how I'm feeling right now? And it's okay to acknowledge the feeling. There's nothing wrong with feelings. Feelings are feedback, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. But with awareness and recognition, then we can figure out how to overcome. So yes. And I've been telling my kids also, you have power over the things that you think. And that affects your feelings, because we're not people that are just ruled by feeling. And as women, we're probably more so ruled a little bit more by feelings. And so it's really important to be careful in light of that, because we are emotional people. Like, there's some benefits there, right? We can empathize, we can sympathize, we can have the feels with people that are struggling, or they're joyful, or whatever. But I think also sometimes that can lead to drama, and we have to be careful of that. I wanted to mention really quickly, this completely ties in with what Brooke and Emily started out with in that webinar from Friday, is basically honoring where you're at right now. You can be gold. You can have been gold for 3 years, and you need to recognize that where you're at right now is where you're at. That's your starting point, and that is okay. I think, like Amy mentioned, the whole comparison game, we can start to spiral and then get paralyzed, because we feel like there's this underlying thought that, well, I should be here, I should be there instead of here. And so basically it's just an acknowledgement of where you're at, and recognizing that, you know what, I'm willing to get better at the skill set, because this business is about learning the skill set. It's not about perfection. It's about being like rising up in your excellence. I love Carissa Casey's affirmation that I learned from her at Super Saturday. One of her affirmations is, I help rise up people in their excellence. And she linked it back to herself too, because she's someone that really wants to be, to have that standard of excellence. And how did she say that? She rises up people in their excellence as she is rising up herself in her excellence, and basically showing up. But anyways, I appreciated that Brooke and Emily said that if it feels hard, that's normal. It's okay for this business to feel uncertain or feel hard. And they were talking about how intentionality extinguishes overwhelm, and that overwhelm is a choice. So yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we were talking about, like getting to the root of the emotion that we're feeling. And even if you're feeling overwhelmed, to figure out a solution for that, and not just wallow in that, and not let not allow it to paralyze us, right? Because we can scale back instead of feeling like, whoa, squirrel brain, how do I do all the things? Pick one thing and write that down. Amy, did you have any notes that you wanted to share on that? I know that I loved those quotes about overwhelm.
Yeah. And I like that I felt like they spent a long time talking about, like, not to be ashamed. Like, there's no shame in where you are at, and there's no shame. Like, she's like, I've heard so many people say, like, I've been a gold for 4 years, and I'm so ashamed. And she's like, you have to stop that. You change the story today. Okay. So for whatever reason, you've been gold for 4 years. That's fine. But now we're moving forward. And so, she's like, we can break the old habits. We can change the story. And I was talking to a girl on my team who literally, I was like, this is my friend. And she's not even taking this training, but she just messaged me the other day, and she said those exact words. She's like, I feel shame that I've been a gold for 4 years. And so I was able to tell her kind of what these girls had said, but she's like, also, I'm not going to look back. I can't live there, or I'll feel like what a waste of 4 years. Like I wasted a gift. But she's like, I'm also going to admit and own that I have not worked this. I've said that I was working it, but I haven't worked it. It's like, I'm not going to waste the gift anymore, and I'm going to work it. And then it's easier even to hold it loosely. I feel like if we know we're working hard, then you know, God could make me diamonds in 2 months if he wanted to, or he could have all of my team walk away. You know what I mean? But if I'm being faithful and I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to do, I guess it's easier to just to rest in that. Whereas she was feeling like, I know that I haven't done the things. I know I've squandered. I'm not going to look back. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to change the script and I'm going to change the story from here on out. And I am going to work and I am going to do the things and I'm going to own it. You know what I mean? And so I just thought that went well. Like, decide to move forward in joy. That's one thing that Brooke and Emily said together. And I thought that is a really great quote. Like, decide to move forward in joy. We're all going to have months where we crush it. We're all going to have months where our sideline crushes it and we didn't. And so there is that, we're all going to see the jerk revealed in our hearts, right? There's going to be months where we get to be on top, and there's going to be months when our friends get to be on top. And so there's a refining process that comes with business, unlike any other thing that I've ever been a part of in my life. I have been more refined in 4 years of Plexus than in 20 years of full-time ministry. So, you know, but I just think that those things were so, so good.
Yeah, no, you guys are blowing up the chat. It's really good. Thank you for adding your 2 cents. I think one thing that I really have appreciated about listening to Brooke and Emily is that they're not afraid to address the elephant in the room. And I think sometimes as leaders, it's like we feel like we have to just concentrate on the do all the time. Like, okay, are you doing your IPA? How many conversations did you have? Like, all of those things. And that is like the crux of the activity to working this business. But underneath all that activity is something that is hidden that you cannot see. And it's like, it's your mindset. It's my mindset. It's the brain space, what's going on in the head, head chatter. It's, the things that contribute to the feelings of overwhelm, or what's going on in a personal life that's affecting our ability to take the action or not take the action, right? And so sometimes when you see someone that has the action and it's aligned with a mindset that's very gritty, and maybe there's a previous skill set there that they've already learned, that's the difference a lot of times in what, how, for example, I'll just say, let's say Jessica Heffley or even Brooke went diamond in a year or less than a year, whatever it was. It's because there was so many things aligned in their work ethic, in their character, in their mindset, even in their ability to make a lot of money. Like their, what do we call that? Their money mindset was set for high, set a lot higher than, like, I would just love to make $500 a month. And if that's someone's goal, that's totally fine. But there is a lot behind the scenes that goes into why a person would be able to go that quickly and find success that fast in something like network marketing. And yes, those stories are inspiring, and I think it reveals a lot about that person, especially as they, maintain and continue to grow that business. It's not just like a once and done. They hit diamond and then they like disappeared off the face of the earth. You know what I mean? But I will say that any of us can be that person if that's what you are desiring. If your goal is diamond because of the choices it gives your family and because of XYZ reasons, even if it takes you 5 years, or even if that takes you 10 years, or however many years to learn that, all of us have to go through the muck. All of us have to go through that process of, well, what is my money mindset? Or sometimes it's the acknowledgement of, you know what, I'm not set for making millions because my scarcity mindset won't allow that. And so it's recognizing those like little pieces that contribute to the backstory of success. Does that make sense? I don't know if this is resonating with anyone, but sometimes I think it's easy to look at someone that's super successful and just be like, well, the stars aligned, they're lucky, that type of thing. But I think the important thing to realize is that all of us are overcoming a lot of different things. And what I think is special about Brooke and Emily is they have an uncanny way of basically explaining that whole process, explaining the mindset, sharing through their struggle of like, this is what I've had to go through. Just being really open and vulnerable about those things. And I feel like for me personally in my Plexus journey, because that's the framework in which we're talking about, is that I had a lot of I didn't necessarily verbalize that, like verbalize like the fears I was overcoming, but like my ability to overcome. And I just look back in my first year of like the mountain of uncertainty, of fear, of all those things. I feel like I overcame those things pretty quickly because I recognized what was going on. Like, I'm scared people are going to think I'm selling them something. And then I started to go specifically to training on YouTube to figure out, okay, why am I thinking that way? How do I frame this? Okay, that's the other thing, is like I realized that I was holding myself back and the team back, because I was afraid to talk about the business. But it's because I didn't know how to. And it's easy to look at people and be like, well, of course, it's easy for Jessica Heffley. She had a marketing degree. She had a business degree. She was, her framework for joining this was completely different than mine. And so I think that acknowledging that you can join for the business and then decide, you can join for the products and then decide to work the business, right? But how I share that with people might look different than someone like Jessica, right? I think it's easy to look at Brooke and say, well, no wonder they're successful. They're medical professionals, right? But I think the cool thing is, like, she's been so willing to share her verbiage. I'm learning so many things about verbiage, how to talk to people, how to make these teeny tiny little pivots. And the things that you're going to glean from Amy and I, from Brooke and Emily, from whoever your sponsor is, and learning these things, is that a lot of times it's a teeny tiny little pivot, and it's continue to work on the mindset, continue to overcome and acknowledge those things, but also to be willing to take the tiny little shifts and pivots of verbiage, or even something simple like figuring out your daily routine. I think it was brilliant that Amy on the Power Hour on Monday just kind of told how her day works. Just hearing sometimes like the basic things of, I get up at 5 and I work my business from 6 to 8, and then I'm with my kids. And so I think even just hearing, sometimes it's like you have to hear the obvious to recognize, like, oh, duh, why didn't I think of that? Okay, so let me look at
Did you guys, those of you who listen to the call, Emily mentioned her podcast where she and Tammy, I'm looking at Tammy Conker, she and Brooke talk about like kind of their falling out and their reconciliation. I was so intrigued by it that I watched it. I went over and I found it. It's her podcast, Imagine All the Things. And it's the one where it just says, my trenchy friend, Brooke Hemingway. And they talk to each other, and they talk so candidly, and they honor each other. But I thought it was so good because they were both really vulnerable, but it reminded me again, like what you said earlier, Megan, like when you're having struggles, and you will, that is not the time that you make a decision, peace out, I'm done. That's what they say. Like if someone, like if your husband dies or a spouse dies, like those are not the times, like you should wait a year before you make a crazy decision. Like, I'm going to sell my house, I'm going to move to Africa. Like you wait a year, you know what I mean? Like before you make any crazy decision. And so they, for 2 solid years, did not speak to each other. It was an insane thing. Like they did not speak to each other. But the other thing that was really cool is they were like, all of Plexus, nobody in Plexus knew, because they kept the drop. They didn't speak. They didn't talk about it. They didn't talk behind each other's back. If someone mentioned one, they were like, I know, isn't she amazing? Like they honored the person in front of the world. But she's like, we basically hated each other for 2 years. And at one point, one of them tried to reconcile and the other wasn't ready yet, because one of them wants to like, let's get it all, let's talk. And the other one's like, I have to like process and really think it through. But I was like, that raised my level of respect for them so much, because, and the reconciliation's been fairly recent. And so, but I was like, A, nobody knew in all of Plexus realm. So they handled it with such dignity and maturity. And B, both of their businesses grew in a time that was insanely difficult. Do you know what I mean? And so I think, okay, so me getting done at my dream job at my church and moving to another church and being so sad that I left my people, like, that's not like a big, huge deal. And like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, but they didn't do anything crazy, and they still put their heads down, and now they've worked on reconciliation, and they're so honest about it, but they did the things that needed to be done still. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? But the podcast is really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. And I think that even just talking amongst, even on a coaching call, about just to give ourselves perspective, because it's easy to have like even subconscious shame. Or two, like once you're aware of that, you're like, oh my word, like I have totally been comparing myself, or I have felt shame that my points are not growing like so-and-so's points, or, you know, those types of things. And so I think, you know, uncovering even that hidden feeling or vibe that you might have, and it's probably holding you back, because that type of energy that you're allowing to like sap you kind of is going to hold you back, right? And so I think it's just it's a continual acknowledging and being willing to kind of look at the hard things. And I will say, for me personally, I probably should have tried to think through more personal examples of this for me, but it was about 2 years ago actually that I started to recognize like there are frustrations in my life and it's sapping my energy. And so I just started to, I just said, you know what, I'm in a season of figuring out solutions to the things that are frustrating me. And so, for example, that looked like, you know what, I can't do it all. And so, like, I can't be 100% mom, 100% housewife, being in charge of all of the laundry, all of the car cleaning, all of the running kids back and forth, all of the meals, all of the homeschooling. Like, that's like 5 jobs. Why do I think that I can do all that? And so, like, acknowledge, and basically it was pride, thinking I could do it all. And then two, being willing to be honest and humble about, okay, at this point, I don't have to live like a crazy lady. So that might mean that I have to leverage. I might have to hire some help to think. And it was actually Jessica Heffley that put the thought process out there. And then I learned that Brooke was kind of going through the same thing about around the same time. It's like, you know what? It's kind of silly for us to be running these ginormous businesses and do it without staff. Like, what business out there does that? And so even to base it off of percentages, which I will say, do not wait until you're a jewel or a diamond to have help. And so that could look like different things for different seasons in your life. If you have a bunch of kids that are adults and you're able to outsource to them and say, hey, can you run some of my social media for me? Hey, can you be my graphics girl? Hey, I'll pay you to do the house cleaning. You know, that can look like different things for different people. It also can look like, you know what, we outsource 10% of our income, and that can be scaled down, whether you're a gold ambassador and it can work, and you can like scale that as you grow in your business. Does this make sense? So like maybe at 10%, you're a gold ambassador, you're like, okay, I have $100 that I can put towards leveraging in my business. I can pay someone else $10 an hour, $15 an hour to do XYZ in my house, in my life, things that anybody can do. And so, you know, as you grow, that percentage can stay the same, but the amount gets bigger, meaning you can hire more help to help you get things done. So that's just a tiny little thing for me that some people will not get help, or whatever that looks like for you, but it will end up holding you back if you're not willing to find a solution for the thing in your life that's creating your frustration. So anyways, okay, well, let's move into a little bit of talking about the power of 3. And I so wish that I had the graphics. I have them on my phone, but when they were talking, like, they had graphics up and quotes up of power of 3, right? That is what we talk about. That's like the lifeline to this business. And I will just say really quickly for everyone that's on this call, the power of 3 is so essential to your business. But I will also say that the whole add 6 idea, excuse me. So we've been talking about, you know, add 3, get the stimulus, add 6, get double stimulus. Brooke talked a few months ago about how 6 is her new 3. And I was really inspired by that. But I think the thing that we have to remember is this business goes back to numbers. And so I just want to encourage everyone, if you have specific goals this month, your goal needs to be to sponsor 6 people. If you want to rank up, you want to hit a point goal, you want to help teammates hit point goals, you need to sponsor 6. And I'm not saying that to overwhelm anyone, but to just say, if you are not personally sponsoring people, your business will not grow. All right. And the speed of your team is going to be affected by you as a leader, personally sponsoring. If you want to see more people do that, then you go do it. All right. And so I'm personally working on this. I've had such scarcity mindset in light of adding more people, because I have legit sponsored hundreds of people over the past 5 years, and Justin and I both. Okay. But I've been very inspired by hearing Brooke say that scarcity to say, I'm done helping people, right? And so I am willing to help more people, and God is blessing that. I've put myself into activity that I know produces results for sponsoring people. And so just to give a numbers perspective, Brooke had said, if I want to sponsor 3 people, I need to reach out to about 100, 150 people in a given month. All right. And so if you want to sponsor 6, then you need to up that number. And I think it also depends on where you're at in your business. If you're hitting your market fresh, that might look different than once you've been in this business for 5 years. But it goes back to creating new conversations, continuing to share on social media, being willing to show up even on a social media platform that you don't feel as comfortable with. For me, that's Instagram. But I have been committed to making the actions of showing up every day in my stories and continuing to post in there and develop new friendships and relationships. It's a different feel than Facebook, right? But I'm willing to try, even if I don't know how to do it all, right? And so being willing to do it imperfectly.
That quote she shared, The Power of Free by Jeffrey Fry, was only those who can see the invisible can do the impossible. I thought that was really good. Like, I feel like sometimes, like, that's why I need Lisa on my team. We are so different in each other, Lisa Wentz and I. I'm more of like a boots on the ground, grinded out person, and she's more the visionary, the dreamer. Like, my dreams oftentimes aren't big enough, and she'll do these wild dreams. So it's a good balance, Yeah, Tammy's a 7. Yeah. So sometimes her dreams are like, I'm like, okay, then we need a plan if we're going to like both go diamond next month, So I think we do balance each other. Like, her dreams are sometimes like, what? And sometimes I'm like, oh, I could do this. You know what I mean? So having that dream, like to have someone be able to present the invisible to you, or to even believe in the invisible, I think is so important. You know what I mean? And she says, and a lot of times things that you think are impossible, somebody else is doing them. And the competitor in me was like, suddenly I don't think anything's impossible. If somebody else is doing it, then I'm going to do it too. But I just thought that's a good mindset, a good perspective to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I thought that it was really interesting. Emily was saying that, just kind of comparing, I think probably most of us are moms on this call, is comparing our Plexus journey to being a mom. And she said, if we want to have new growth on our team, that we have to be willing to continue to change the diapers. Like if we want, there's basically stages of motherhood, and you might be able to chime in and communicate that better, but basically she was saying, if we want the new growth, if we want the new baby, right, we have to be willing to go through labor and pregnancy and deal with the binkies and the diapers and the sleeplessness and the breastfeeding, like all the things. And so she's like, we're not above working the business like we did at the beginning. You sponsor people, you help people go silver, you host little events. And it's like wash, rinse, what is that? Wash, rinse, repeat. And this business is insanely simple, but a lot of times people want some sort of magic pill or magicness. And I'm like, you know what? It's really willing to show up in your imperfectness and strive for excellence, getting better every day. But and this is the other thing I've really been working with myself on, is being systematic in this business. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, systems. Oh, what's the system? I need the system. But if you are signing people, if you're reaching out, creating conversations, you are signing people and you are helping them to go silver, you have a system for that. Okay. And also being systematic in the way that you do things, meaning every time you sign up someone, you're doing the same thing. You're sending them the starter direction. You're being excited and being like, hey, I'm so excited for you. Message me when your products arrive. I'm going to send over that starter instruction. You send them the link to the team page. You get them added and tagged. You make sure that they're invited to the next event that we are hosting. And you get them on the phone and you're like, hey, tell me how your products are going. Or, hey, did you get your products yet? Tell me what your thoughts are about sharing. Do you have some people that you feel like could benefit from this? That is a system. And if you are missing any part or any piece of that system, there's going to be a little bit of you're not going to be as successful, right? And so it's finding that, like, where do I need to pivot? Oh, I recognized a couple of years ago that I was completing step 1 of 4. I got them signed. I got them added to the team page, and I kind of assumed by osmosis that it would be like, woo, we're going silver, right? But it was like that willingness to be like in the trench and ask the hard questions, the uncomfortable questions for me, because I don't like phone conversations. But guess what? You can get used to phone conversations and get better at those. It's okay if you don't love them, you can still do them, right? And so the systematic approach is going to help you with your verbiage. It's going to help you with confidence every time you present it, even if you're like, oh my word, they will never share. Like, go through your little spiel anyways, because guess what? You're practicing on your little, sharing on your little system of like, this is what I do. I even say that, I even tell people like, hey, I know that you're starting for products and you didn't really verbalize whether you were interested in sharing, but I tell every ambassador that joins me the scoop about this, because this was not an option when I started. But if you help 3 people this month, you get a $300 to $500 little referral bonus. And so I was just kind of curious if you thought, if you thought of anyone that could benefit from these products. A lot of people will, get their mom, their BFF, and their hubby on board to even just do this with them, so that they don't have to worry about the cost of their products. They don't have the budget for them. Does this sound like something that you want to do? So like posing the question. All right. And I think the thing is that we have to take the verbiage, the network marketing verbiage out of it. Well, I think they talked about that, didn't they? Basically,
Yeah,
not turning off.
Yeah, it makes them feel left out, like they're not part of the group. They don't know what silver means. She's like, don't ever give your rank. They don't care. They don't know what it is. They don't care. That's Plexus lingo that they don't understand. So don't say go silver. Don't say I'm an emerald. Don't say, you know what I mean? Like, I thought that was really, really good. Like, don't use weird salesy. Don't say my upline. I hate when people call me their upline. Say my friend, that still makes me squeamish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she said, don't create disconnect with your words by using verbiage that people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, you know what I mean? And the other thing is this idea that in order for people to go silver, that they have to work a business. That's another mindset shift I think we have to make, is like, most people don't want to work a business. They are doing this for their health. They are starting products because they see that as valuable. And so I think we have to have an awareness of that, and be willing to softly introduce the business to them by not even saying business, by just saying, hey, do you have a couple of people that you could help? You may have already thought of a couple people, and just presenting it that way. Or, talking about the referral bonus, hey, would that be a blessing to your family? What could that mean to your family this month to be able to earn that? And by the way, it's not too late to come back through your wholesale people and ask them that. Do not leave any stone unturned in terms of talking with your people. Be systematic. Print out your back office list. And it doesn't even have to be your level 1s. If you have connections and relationships with level 2s and level 3s, reach out to them. Say, hey, I don't know if you're interested in this month, but there's a $300 to $500 referral bonus that Plexus is putting out to help families this month. And I was just curious if this would help your family. Putting it out there like that, just super simple, and realizing that people do not have to work a business to go silver, or even to go super silver. A lot of people can organically work this without even trying to work it. I think it's sometimes when we try to get ready, then it creates paralysis, versus just encouraging people to share naturally, with people in their life.
Said to get them silver accidentally.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't even know what they did.
But I think one thing I've appreciated about what Brooke and Emily have shared is that they're expending energy for people. I think that this entitlement idea that, people are going to see what I do, because I totally had that entitlement mentality, and I didn't even realize I had it, because in the first year or two, I was like, well, people can see what I'm doing and go do the things. Like, they have access to the team page, they have access to the files, they can go be self-starters. I don't have time to handhold people. Like, legit, that was kind of my thought process. But I'm realizing that I will help more people if I actually sit and expend some energy to help them learn how to do the things. Some people are not social media savvy. A lot of people don't know even 3 people to talk to. And so helping you as the person with more experience can speak into, as you ask questions, you're going to hear the objections, you're going to hear their mindset blocks, right? And you're able to speak into that and ask a lot of questions to help them more. And so I've been really convicted lately, just in the sense of, I need to be willing to sit with people and do IPA, even just to get them to silver faster. And one of my affirmations has been, I can still personally sponsor. I can still recruit people. I have that skill set, right? It's the willingness to expend the energy to do that, right? And number two is I can develop silvers. And yes, we all love it when someone joins our team and they're like, boom, they go sign up 3 people and we didn't even help them. You cannot take credit for developing a silver when they, will just go do that, right? But I think the development part is being willing to sit in the space, ask the questions, and like literally handhold them and talk with their people, even have them do the 3-way messages, because it works. It totally works.
You want to talk about, I loved what she talked about was towards the end, like the success. I think it was actually kind of, maybe it wasn't. No, wait, there's so much in this. I guess we're not even halfway through. But she was talking about the success, where she was like, most people think it looks like this, the arrow, and what success really looks like is like, she's like, so she talked about being like super weighty under the surface. I thought that was so good. Where she's like, it's a journey. We learn what works for us and our team. It's going to be messy. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to learn a ton along the way. And we need to change our expectations, not lower them, but change them. And I thought that was so good. Always in my kitchen right now. Don't settle, but shift and pivot. And then she talks about like the things that we can control, which it goes back to mindset again. Like we can't control our team. We can't control what people do. Whatever. We can control our personal growth, our mindset, our expanding network, and the post, message, invite, and repeat. Post, message, invite, repeat. That's what we can control. And she talks about like how like our DNA, we're actually wired to be able to thrive in uncertainty. But the way our world is now, like we have learned to, like, we can know what gender of baby we're going to have. We can know what the weather's going to be 10 days out. Like we can know so much more now that we never were able to know back in the day. So she's like, you were actually made to be able to thrive in uncertainty. So it's okay if you don't know things. It's okay if you're uncertain about things. You can still thrive. And that's another mindset shift, right? We're so busy, like Megan said, getting ready to get ready, or, all of the what ifs. But that can actually make us fight harder for what we want, and it will make us weighty under the surface. I thought that was so good. Like who we are underneath, where we're not ruffled and we're not going to walk away and we're not going to have hissy fits. We're going to be weighty under the surface. We're going to be able to thrive no matter the circumstances that are outward.
Agreed. Yes. She talked about a lot of times the issue is our expectations. And this is where frustration sets in, or disappointment or discouragement, is because we're even overwhelmed. And you basically prove to yourself, well, I wasn't really cut out for this. Well, see, so-and-so, look at, she joined and look what happened, but people are starting at different vantage points. People are in different seasons in their life. Some people have more time to devote to it. Some people come in with a bigger skill set, more social media following, whatever. But I think that unmet expectations a lot of times kind of the background of frustration, right? And so she said, yeah, we have to shift. And that was something that it was Anthony Trucks at the Align retreat in January, where he talked about shift. We gotta make a shift. And it's recognizing that and reset the expectation. And she said, yes, you can thrive in uncertainty, and it's all about making the small pivots, making the small changes. She did a lot of training. I feel like they did a lot of training in light of specifically signing people up. They talked about sales, how it's not about selling per se as much as it's building trust and educating. So as much as we can seek to connect with people, even when we're in 3-way messages with people, is like finding that rapport of like, oh my word, like some way to resonate and to connect with them. And she talked about how important it is to ask a lot of questions and gather information and connect before you basically speak into, okay, hey, I do have some product recommendations for you. I'll send you over 2 tippy top recommendations based on what you just told me. And so that's been my system recently, is like, I'll ask them a bunch of different questions, hey, do you have any allergies? Are you on any meds? What are your health goals? Hey, you said you wanted weight loss. How much weight are you talking? So it's like this back and forth little bouncy ball. And then after I have gathered enough information from them, then I say, hey, I have 2 recommendations for you. Do you mind if I send those over really quick? And I will literally send in the albums of the One Team page, there's a new album that has every welcome pack and a little description underneath it. I will literally send them. Sometimes it's just even one. I've been recommending that Renew You Essentials pack, the 189 pack. It has active, Metaburn, the triplex, and the shakes. That is the bomb.com for people that say, you know, hey, I need to lose weight, or hey, I have an energy crisis, I have a weight problem, and they may or may not have, you know, various gut health issues. But I liked the fact that they said, especially when you're in three-way messages and you don't necessarily have a personal connection to the people, make sure that you're putting a variety of like little text messages and voice messages, because they hear your voice, they hear your passion. They're like, oh my word, she's like a normal mom, like she's correcting her kids while she's talking to me or whatever. Like it creates that connection point, but it's not just text. And it's not just a bunch of scary voice message links to click on. So I thought that was one little tiny tidbit. I was like, ooh, good idea. Oh, and I liked the fact that she said learning to do this is called leadership. Learning to figure out how to ask the questions ends up equaling enrollments, which equals team growth, right? And your team grows up. Your team growth goes up as your leadership grows. So all of you that are listening to us chitter chatter about these things, you're expanding your leadership lid. I'm expanding my leadership lid. Amy's expanding her leadership lid. Like none of us have arrived. We're all, you know, in this together and learning the process.
One thing that I thought that was interesting that they talked about, I had never really thought of it before. She's like, a 3-day challenge should be a last resort. Did you remember when they were talking about that? And I was like, what do they mean by that? But they were like, a 3-day challenge, like, you know, a lot of reasons why they fall flat for people is if you haven't already pre-qualified them, meaning, because like, what does that mean? But like, she's like, pre-qualify means you've already had a conversation about it. They've already said they're interested in Plexus. You've maybe sent them a sample. Like you've already had a conversation about Plexus. And so they're kind of pre-qualified. They're interested. So then you invite them to the 3-way. But she's like, that should be a last resort. She's like, if you're doing the send, share, invite system, you're sending them a message asking if you could, you know, share a little video with them, you're having a conversation with them. And, you know, she's like, honestly, she's like, the 3-day challenges are for people who are like playing hard to get. It's like, you know, I've already tried to sign them up. We're having lots of conversations. I've even offered to send them a sample and then I add them to a 3-way. And I was like, whoa, I just like asked the world if they want to come to 3 ways or to 3 days. I mean, 3-day challenges. But I just thought that that was an interesting kind of way that she talked about it. She's like, you know, the system is you send a message, say you came to my mind, I thought about you in Plexus. If I was to send this video, would you watch it? It's that whole send, share, invite system, right? And then you send them the video, you ask them what they thought about it. Would you be willing to watch this? You know, and then they ask about pricing and information. Like you talk about all of these things. And if they're not interested, then you invite them to the 3-day. What did you think about that, Megan?
Yeah, they use this, they train on send, share, invite because they were the ones that created it and invented it for Plexus. So yep, they totally train on that. But she was basically talking about having a strong close. So my goal at this point when I'm creating conversations, I feel like we all have the confidence and we have the knowledge to get people signed up ASAP. But it's a matter of finding out what their needs are, what their questions are, and then making a product recommendation based on what they tell us, and then say, hey, does this sound like something you'd like to try? Boom, point blank. Get them signed up. If they say yes, I'm on the phone with them within 5 minutes if I can. And so I think it's really important not to just keep inviting to the next thing. The people that I will invite, well, I mean, I still send out like, you know, message invites to people about the little, whatever, 1-night events or 3-day event sometimes, but a lot of times if I cannot get someone signed because they have some sort of objection, like, hey, you know, hey, we just, you know, have this $10,000 debt I did not expect and I can't start yet. Or, you know, some sort of cost objection. I have a single mom I'm talking to right now, Anna. She did a 3-day challenge back with us in January or something. And she's like, you know, hey, I would love to, but I can't afford it. And so, yes, I'm connecting with her still. So there's, you know, lots of conversation messages. And I'm going to mention to her again, you know, hey, I know that you had mentioned, you know, your financial struggle and things like that. Would you be open to chatting about the opportunity with Plexus? It's helping, you know, I have a friend, Abby, who was a single mom when she started Plexus, and she started for the business, and she's now, you know, making $500,000 a year. I would maybe not say that per se. But I would say, you know, I have a friend, Abby, who is a single mom, and she's been really successful at this business. And I thought of you, just with what you're going through right now. Would you be open? Would you be open? Okay, because then I'll have a conversation on the phone, hopefully, with her. But I invited her because she feels like she can't afford, you know, college and Enjoyum right now, even though she likes what she's hearing about it, to the little event. I'm like, well, hey, why don't you come and learn with us? You know, just continue to like connect with people, and if you can't get them signed, invite them to the next thing, right? But often what I see is like we have a constipated funnel because we're not willing to ask the specific question, like, hey, does this sound like something you'd like to try? So, and I would also encourage you, if you guys are newer, to ask your sponsor to do some three-way messages with you so that you can see their exact verbiage and what they ask people and how they move through that process fairly quickly. I don't let days go by typically between messages. Like if I do, like it's an accident, if I'm talking to someone and like we're chatting products, we're chatting what their health goals are, I don't let it set for 3 days. Like I'm like Johnny on the spot, acting with urgency. I will like, this is a little secret, but sometimes like I don't answer other messages because I'm like filtering through my whatever Facebook Messenger to see like, hey, you know, my potentials. I'm looking for who did I chat with last that maybe sent me a message back, and I gotta be right on it, right? So all that to say, also, if you send me a message and I don't respond back to you, do not assume that I don't want to talk to you. Send me another message so it bumps it to the top of my Facebook Messenger, because sometimes stuff gets buried, or if I do a messaging blitz and go message 50 people, you know, sometimes it unintentionally gets bumped down lower and I forget to go check those. Oh man. Amy, we still have a lot of notes, don't we?
I know. One thing when you were talking, I liked like when they were kind of pinpointing, because I think it's easy, especially even in these, it's easy to almost get overwhelmed to be like, okay, so there's so much information. So what exactly do I do? You know? And so, well, those of you who did the power hour with me on Monday, that is how I do my business. Like I literally work the list and I bang, 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 bust it out, you know. But one of the questions that she asked she said, if you're like kind of wondering, then ask yourself the question, what I'm doing right now, is it helping to bring money into my business? Is my activity serving me or supporting me? And if it's not, what do I need to do? Or she's like, ask yourself also, what do I need to do today to get an enrollment today or to help someone go silver today? So that is the action to get into. You know what I mean? And so that helps you to, you know, the scrolling or the even, you know, creating a post or whatever, like, especially if you only have little pockets of time, you know, then that's a good question to ask. I've got a 10-minute window right now. So what can I do in these 10 minutes that could potentially grow my team, grow my business? And then you can automatically filter order of importance. You know what I mean? Happy birthdays, you could maybe double up tomorrow on those, something like that, you know?
So I think it is like figuring out how to live by the law of priorities, because there's always going to be that little tension, right? And as you grow in your business, there's going to be more things pulling at you. Like, I need to get that 3-day thing scheduled. Hey, I need to respond to all those Marco Polos of, you know, different team members that have messaged me. But like, you have to figure out like, okay, in this 10 minutes, what can I do? And maybe you haven't made a post or a, you know, Facebook story in a couple of days. So it's like, okay, I have to do that first. But like what Amy said, I wrote that down because I thought it was phenomenal to like put that on a note card and post it above your desk. If I have to get an enrollment today, what action should I be taking? What should I do? Okay, if we gave you that assignment of like, hey, go sign up for an ambassador before you hit the sheets tonight, what would you go do? You know, like it's not that complex. And she said also this idea of cold messaging, let me just address it really quick. I don't send cold messages. Now I will reach out to people and I will chat with people that I don't know in person or that I've never met before, or maybe they, you know, we just connected on Instagram. But I think sometimes the way we verbalize something, or the way we think about something, like, oh, it's cold, like, rah, I don't do those, right? How many times do we think in our brain, like, I don't do cold messages? But I think a lot of times we just have to shift our mindset on like what the definition, renaming it, and then deciding that if we don't do the things that we say we're not going to do, there will be no forward growth, right? And so whatever that scary thing is for you, think through what that is. Everyone has a scary thing, right? Maybe it's making a video, maybe it's calling a friend, maybe it's whatever, replying to those messages that you got back after doing a blitz messaging thing. If you have something that is scaring you to death and it's an area of procrastination, or what does Jessica Heffley say? Resist. What are you resisting, procrastinating, or
Avoiding?
Figure out what that is and go do it. Yes, yes. And they did say, if you don't know what else to do, post, message, invite. And then I'm a musician, so I put little repeat signs. Okay, if you don't know what else to do, that's what you do. Post, make a post, message some people, and invite. And I just go back to thinking, hit the list. It goes back to a numbers thing. Stop pre-qualifying or pre-judging people and be like, oh, they would never be interested. You know what? There's a lot of people that are interested. I just made a list. Amy challenged us on the Power Hour to figure out, who last watched your stories. I made a huge list, and I was like, I hit the list last night. Boom, 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 bam. Thanks for, watching my story. Have you ever tried Plexus? Okay, it doesn't have to be complex. And I got several messages back saying, hey, I don't know that I'm interested in the Joyum and the collagen, but I really need something for my gut. And so it is like, spend time in Messenger initiating with people, and you'll see forward growth in your business, because it kind of goes back to having enough conversations with people. That's usually a disconnect of why we're not signing up more people, is because there's not enough conversations initiated. And there could also be some need for some coaching also, if there's if you're struggling with some verbiage or knowing how to respond to people. But we'll be talking about that on the Power Hour tomorrow morning. Alrighty, it's been an hour. Okay, fabulous. Thanks, Amy, for chiming in, for sharing. Thank you for everyone that posted and really contributed in the chat thread. I was reading those and really appreciated those comments also. So we'll see you guys tomorrow on the Power Hour. Bye-bye.